Hi, I just wanted to answer a question that I received about how did alopecia affect my close relationships with my immediate family, um, which was true. It did. Sorry. When I saw that question, I was like, yes, it did actually. Did it affect those relationships? And it's alopecia seeps into every part of your life. There wasn't one thing that alopecia didn't touch. When I had full-on alopecia universalis, I had just moved into a house which was a renovator's delight. I was in a cold climate. We had quite a lot of money put away to renovate the house. I became very sick. I couldn't work. I also got chronic fatigue syndrome at the same time, and we didn't know anything about alopecia or chronic fatigue syndrome. So both those illnesses came. I went to so many doctors for both illnesses. And I have a whole nother story to tell you about that process. But that really drained us. One person in the relationship couldn't work. So it was up to the other person to do all the earning. um, they hadn't that my partner didn't get a job back where we were living and were fly in fly out for 12 months before they could got a position that they were happy with back in Tasmania and where I live. And so they were fly in fly out. So that's really hard if you know anything about fly in fly out life and relationships. Very tough. I was also pretty much bedridden and housebound for the first few years of recovery. So I had absolutely zero hair for a short while at the start, and then hair coming and going. So a bit of white hair would go, a little bit of this would go. It was a really horrible time for my self esteem. Not only did I look completely different, I couldn't contribute to the family. My body was, I was just exhausted, and I was mentally really, really down in the dumps. So yeah, it did affect our relationship. I physically looked different. I couldn't actually physically do the same types of things and exist in the world properly, um, because I had chronic fatigue syndrome as well as alopecia, and I couldn't work and earn money. So it's a big impact on a relationship where both of us had a plan about what we were doing when we'd moved back, and then all of these things cascaded. We also didn't have a support group in the community I moved to. I'd lived in a long, long time ago, but I'd come back. It wasn't my hometown where I had lots of family. I didn't have any family, but I had lived there 7 years before, and it was a really hard place for me. And but everyone had moved on and had different lives, so I didn't have a deep a sense of community where I could call on people because I'd built up the ability to, that I'd supported people and I'd helped people in their tough times. I didn't have that reciprocity, back and forth. And I was in a cold old house that we hadn't renovated yet. Yeah, so look, there were just so many things that compounded, and it actually wasn't just the alopecia that made looking so different. It was really a really tough time on our marriage and on our family time. When someone's really low and really down and really having a tough time, it is really hard on the other person because it's all about balance and relationships and give and take, and we go back and forth. But we are out the other side of that, so that's wonderful. But yeah, it does affect your immediate family relationships. I see photos now, and I'll bring some out at some point to show you at my daughter's fourth birthday party. And I just went. I had bald head. I had a sheen of white hair coming over, and that would come and go all the time for me. And then it was never consistent. Like, I think my hair's growing back and it would fall out. My hair's growing back and it would fall out. So it was pretty tough. Um, and I look at those photos and I think, oh, I just remember mentally where I was, and it was really, really hard. Um, but you're there, it's your family's birthday, and you're doing the best you can for your family at that time. So yeah, it was really tough. Um, think you learn a lot about yourself when you're going through these things. You learn a lot about your partner. Um, I remember when eventually, like, my self-esteem just became so low, and someone mentioned getting a wig, and I just couldn't even bear like the thought of having to go and try one on. Then I didn't feel worthy enough because I wasn't a cancer patient. There were just so many emotions, and I was so hard on myself. And a friend went with me and said, "Come on, let's try one." And we tried a wig on, and it wasn't my style. It wasn't like, it was a very straight women's bob, like a really straight. But I saw myself with hair again in that moment, and I was like, "Oh, wow." Like, just really, I could feel myself relax for a minute. And I actually think I'll do another video on this one day, but I actually think the wig wearing supported my hair growth in a funny way because I felt normal. When I was wearing a wig, I actually could relax and I felt myself, I thought, even though I knew it was a wig, and once I got over, is it going to fly off, or is it going to, people going to know, and all those emotions you go through. Um, it actually gave me confidence because the wig hair's quite nice, these days. And I remember my husband looking at me one day. I'd got some wigs in the post. I'd had some advice from someone to make sure you can return the wigs. Wherever you buy them from, make sure they've got a return policy so you're not stuck. And they're expensive. And I thought, okay, and I did that, and I was trying one on, and I remember the tag was flipping out the side of my head, and I thought, oh well, and I went and hung the washing on the line, and my husband came and spoke to me, and he's just like, I just haven't seen you with hair for so long. And he just said, I just really forgot how beautiful you really are. You're so beautiful, and I'm sorry I haven't told you that enough throughout this time. But remembering it had been a big, there'd been so much going on. So, not that, yeah, it's just hard. Like, it was just really, really, really hard. And, he was a great supporter, but it's also tough being the main income earner, fly in, fly out, doing all of the mentally supporting. And actually, one of the things that really turned around in my healing journey, particularly the chronic fatigue part of the journey, because I did focus on healing that first because I thought I need to function. I can't actually function. That is the most important thing to be able to function. Then I'll focus on growing back my hair. So that's actually the stages of my journey there. He turned around and said, "Oh, now I've realized I'm your carer now, and that's just what I have to do. That I've become your carer." And I remember going, no way, this is not my story. This is not what I want out of this marriage, out of this life. I'm 40 years old. I've got a lot of years to live, and I'm not going to live like this. So, yeah, I was a big time for me. And yeah, it was a big time for our relationship, of course. But my husband is very supportive and a very kind human. And, you know, Um, so it was a really interesting journey, and we look back on it now and we talk about it, and yeah, it definitely affects your relationships for sure. So he's seen me be sick, come back from it, come out the other side. Were we ever going to split up? No, that was never a question. That was never something. It was never a discussion point. I just felt immense guilt that I wasn't that person that he married. Um, that I didn't have the energy in my life to be a good, proper partner, and I couldn't work, etc. So those were huge things and very important to me in a relationship. But, I did get better, and I did come out the other side, and I have got all my hair back. And I'd be interested to hear how it's affected your relationship also. Just let me know.